how can I say this? The idea, for example, that the man Jesus Christ created the world, for example, you find that in some texts. You see that in Saint Maximus. He has some crazy sayings, while he was on the cross, he was creating the world, like all these types of contradictions. But for sure, in the iconography, it was preserved very attentively. So until the 14th century, when you see God represented anywhere in the Old Testament, it's always Christ. And so when you see the creation of man, you see Christ, and it's Jesus Christ, right? It's not the pre-incarnate logos. It's the man, Christ, who is creating the world. And it seems like it's a continuation of that image, of the Son of Man. The idea would be something like, although in terms of time, it doesn't make sense for us, but that ultimately doesn't matter. The idea is that what they saw, what Daniel saw, was Jesus Christ at the side of God the Father.
Yeah. And the time problem is because of the type of creatures we are, right? We were talking, we mentioned Nagel, what is it like to be a bat, right? Animals don't experience time the same way we do, right? There are all different ways in which their consciousness is different. I was recently watching a thing about a dog that had to have a leg amputated, and animals adapt to that kind of thing almost instantly. Humans go through all kinds of, right, because we have a different kind of bodily awareness, right, than an animal has, right? So an animal's just, I have 3 legs now, okay, right?
Yeah, there's no mourning. You don't mourn.
Learn to run on 3 legs. Yeah. So and that includes the experience of time, right? And so we want to apply our experience of time to, for example, angelic beings. So this comes up a lot with Lord of Spirits stuff, because it's, well, when did the angels fall? Yeah. Right? It's sort of like, well, what time is it in heaven right now? Like, what time zone are they on? Right? Yeah. Like, we're projecting, right, our experience onto beings that are not like us, whose consciousness is different than us, and who experience time in a different way. And there's this huge break point as soon as you try to get to God. Yeah. Right. And so time and space are really attributes of created things. Yeah. Right. And we've been taught in Western theology, even, right, we talk about omnipresence. Well, God's everywhere, right? Created things are only in one place at one time, but he's in all the places all the time, right? That's not really what that means, right? I read Father Dumitru Staniloy is really good on this in his Orthodox Dogmatics, right? He talks about God's attributes being supra-essential. So it's equally true to say God is everywhere and to say that he's nowhere. Yeah. Right? And that basically what we mean is these spatial categories don't apply to God. These temporal categories don't apply to God when we say he's eternal. Yeah. Right. And so when we talk about Christ before
before the
incarnation, that's presuming that Christ as God experiences time the way we do, that there was this before and after. And over again in our dogmatics, in our hymnography, and everything, it talks about how Christ took on our human nature, Christ became man without change or alteration. Yeah. And I don't think we take that seriously enough.
Yeah, we have this idea that because we say things like Christ ascended into heaven and his body is there next to the Father, but we think that that's in time. It's like, well, wait a minute.
And that's a place, like yeah. And that was, sorry, Calvinists, I got to get one of these in here, right? That was the Calvinists. It wasn't Calvin himself, but that was the Calvinist's whole argument against Luther on the Eucharist, was it can't be Christ's body because Christ's body is in heaven. Right. Yeah. It's in that place, so it can't be all these other places.
These other places. Yeah. What? Yeah. What's going on? What's going on? Yeah. And there's an interesting idea, which is something like, when Christ ascended into heaven, he ascended into heaven from the beginning. Like, he ascended into heaven from forever, like from beyond time, let's say. Like that there is no, that he entered into, that Christ's body is in God.
Right.
It is not no longer, and is not, it's not limited by time or space ultimately.
Right. It's not a question of time and change that we experience.
Yeah.
There are points where these realities enter into the realm of human consciousness.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's the best way to explain it.
There are points in our history, in our human history, where the fall of certain angelic beings entered into our conscious experience. There's a place where Christ's incarnation entered into our conscious experience.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that it wasn't true before that.
Yeah.
Right. That's why he's the lamb slain before the foundation of the world.
Yeah, I've been quoting that verse a lot these days.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that's so that these things are eternally true, but they enter into time and space, right, and are experienced in a particular way.
Yeah.
Because of the type of beings that we are.